egg, ice cold water, and flour. Traditionally, that's all you need to make tempura with any ingredient. Today, let's dive a little bit deeper to see how we can make the best tempura for your palate. First up, the flour. And we can't talk about flour without talking about gluten. No matter what your personal take on gluten is, if what you want is a light and crispy tempura, gluten is your #1 enemy. So how is gluten formed? Well, in this case, flour, water, and agitation. In particular, it's the proteins in flour that form the gluten. So that makes our flour selection very easy. You always want to go low protein, such as cake flour or pastry flour, so you don't end up with something tough and chewy. Now, the modern approach takes this even further by diluting the flour with a form of starch. Without going into things that are hard to buy, potato starch is your best bet for 2 reasons. 1, it reduces gluten formation because there's no protein here. No amount of agitation would form any amount of gluten. And number 2, the incredible moisture absorption capabilities of the potato starch. And we know for anything that wants to be crispy, moisture is the enemy. So this would help the tempura get crispier and stay crispy. So at this point you might ask, why add the flour at all? Well, this provides the airy crispiness. The flour is the backbone. It provides the structure. It helps the batter bind with the ingredient. So how much to add is a personal preference. Most recipes call for 70-30. I personally go a bit further and go 50-50. But anything above 50% potato starch, the whole thing becomes hard to handle. You have bits falling off, so I recommend no more than 50. Now, the egg. Traditionally, whole egg. Logically, 3 more options. Starting with just the egg white, which is practically 90% water and 10% protein. And we know more protein, more gluten, which is the cardinal sin. It will make the tempura taste firmer and chewier. Everything you want for bread, nothing you want for tempura. But it redeems itself with its ability to introduce air into the batter after whisking, which would give you a lighter texture. And of course, egg white is also a wonderful binding agent, helping the batter stay on the ingredient. I personally like to use egg white only for firmer ingredients like carrot. Next up, just the yolk. What does the yolk bring to the table? Well, fats and proteins. When fat coats flour, it inhibits gluten formation, helping the batter stay light and crispy. It also adds richness and of course color. The only drawback is this could be on the slightly overpowering side. So I personally would use this for something like prawn tempura, which can stand up to the richness. Which brings us back to the traditional approach, the whole egg. In terms of gluten formation, the white and the yolk practically cancel out each other, leaving you with the airy benefit, richness and color. And that's why it's most frequently used. And on top of that, it's the easiest. So I would use this for most things. Now, this leaves us with the no egg approach, which gives you the lightest and thinnest crust. It is also paler because of the lack of egg yolk, less binding because of the lack of egg white, but it has its purpose when handled correctly. Unless you've made tempura many times, I would leave that approach to the experts. Now, the water. You want this as cold as possible, once again, to minimize gluten formation. Some chefs would go the extra mile to even chill the flour beforehand. Some would mix this over ice. The traditional ratio is always 1:1 by weight, not by measurements, because you have different densities. If you're going for a lighter, thinner finish, you can go up to 1.5:1. And what you want to do is minimum mixing. You want everything to just go together without unnecessarily rubbing the proteins of the flour against each other. And this is something you want to do just before frying. And it is why in Japanese tempura restaurants, you see them making batters constantly. It's not because they're running out or they don't have a big enough container. It's because gluten is forming as we speak, even if you leave this untouched. So this is ready for frying. So here we have some high smoke point neutral oil, in this case vegetable oil. I understand it's very fashionable for restaurants to say they're using exotic oil, but for home use and to let the ingredient really do the talking, I would still suggest sticking with something cost-effective and neutral. Now you want to bring the oil to somewhere between 175 degrees Celsius to 180 degrees Celsius. That's the optimal zone. Anything above, it'll brown too quickly before the inside could cook through. Anything below, too much time, too much contact, it'll become soggy and too oily. While that's heating up, let's prepare our ingredients. Today, purely for Instagram and the thumbnail, we have some tiger prawns. But you can apply these principles to any ingredient you fancy. The first thing you want to do to any ingredient is to pat them really dry. Once again, surface moisture is the enemy. And just for prawns, if you don't want them curling up like the emoji, make a few incisions on the belly side to help them stay straight. Once the oil is hot enough, one last optional step I want to give you is that I like to dust off whatever I'm frying with a bit of potato starch or flour if you're using 100% flour. This way, the potato starch could exercise its moisture absorption capabilities and help this bind to our wonderful batter. And finally, after conning you into watching me talk for about 5 minutes, our prawn goes in. And you want to do this in batches. Do not crowd the pan, otherwise the temperature would drop too quickly. And you check the temperature and adjust the heat accordingly to maintain the oil, or at least try to maintain the oil within the desirable range. And tempura is a rapid cooking process. Something this size shouldn't take more than 2 to 3 minutes to cook through. It is now what you want to prepare a wire rack so that once this comes out, you could drain off the excess fat. During and in between fries, it's very important that you clean the oil. Otherwise, your later batches would become fried chicken brown. Beautiful, look at that. Perfect. And tempura is certainly something you want to consume while it's still hot.